people, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought maybe we would discuss some of the things that they don't really talk about when it comes to being pregnant and pregnancy. And these are some of the things that I had to research, but most of all I actually encountered throughout the pregnancy journey, and most of it was really very surprising for me because I definitely wasn't expecting it, and it's definitely not stuff that people talk about all the time. Which, if I'm being honest, is like a lot of research and a lot of panicking and a lot of asking people questions, and you're just all over the place. If you haven't already, please make sure you subscribe down below. When it comes to pregnancy, the abnormal seems to be pretty standard, pretty normal. And I think for me, the only time my doctor said I need to worry is if I'm bleeding fresh blood and it's gushing out. But everything else, they're like, oh yeah, pretty fair game. Yep, no, that's expected. It changes from person to person. So I think for me, the first thing that I definitely have to talk about is morning sickness. So for me, that was my first trimester. I found out that I was pregnant, and I took the pregnancy test. I was really excited. I shared the news with my partner, which I guess is what you're supposed to do. We weren't actually together at the time, so I shared the news with him, and he was really happy and everything. But I don't know what it is psychologically, but once my brain knew that I was pregnant, I started to be as sick as a dog. So before I took the pregnancy test, I was feeling a bit funny, a bit queasy, and I was just like, oh, I think I'm coming down with some sort of bug. But when I did take the pregnancy test, it all just came in, and it was over for me at that stage. And they do lie when they name it morning sickness, because it's all day sickness. Any time is go time. And I could say that for the first 4.5 months of my pregnancy, it was really terrible, and I ended up having to get a bit of medical intervention just so we could try to keep something down, but always it'll come back up and I'll throw up, and it was really terrible. So anything that you can think of, so any of the food that I loved, drinking water made me throw up, looking at other people eating made me throw up. It was just really terrible. Trying to take your multivitamins made me throw up. And that was a really difficult time in my life. But for the 4.5 months that we enjoyed that, I'm happy to say that as soon as that phase passed, my appetite was able to, start coming back slowly. It wasn't 100% back, but I mean, it's better than nothing, which is where I was in the beginning of the pregnancy. The second thing that I would say is everyone talks about cravings, and everyone's like, oh, you'll have these really strong cravings. But when it came to my pregnancy, I don't think I had like really particularly strong cravings where I'd be like, Nash, you have to go and get me this at 2 a.m. in the morning. What I did know were the things that I don't like. So the smells that I don't like, things that I couldn't stand to be around, but I didn't have anything particularly strong. I could wake up one day and be like, oh, today's a good day to have ice cream. But if I didn't actually have the ice cream, or if I didn't actually, manage to eat it, it's not like it'll be a train smash and everything falls apart and life can't go on. So I was pretty surprised because I was expecting cravings to be, top tier, really ridiculous, but not for this pregnancy. And that was a big surprise for me. Once I finished the 4.5 months of not being able to eat and being super weak, because obviously if you don't eat, you get really weak, my body decided that it was time to unlock a new level, and that level was unexplainable aches and pains all over. So what my body would do is, today if this part of the body is aching, tomorrow we'll make sure that this other part of the body is aching. And my body was aching in places that I didn't even know were possible to ache in such a way. So I think for me, the greatest pains that I had were the pains in my pelvic girdle area. Those were really terrible because those really affected my mobility, made it much more difficult for me to move around. So you can imagine me trying to go to work was really difficult. So walking from, say, the train station to the office, would take me double the time that it would normally take me, only because I have to try and walk a bit slower and not, put too much pressure. And the other thing was back pain. I had these really terrible lower back pain, and this happened throughout the second trimester, on and off. So you can imagine with an office job and you're typing and you're trying to stay on top of everything, and then your back is like, oh yeah, no, today we're going to be really painful. Made it really uncomfortable, and honestly speaking, it made the hours at work that much longer. And I was definitely counting down when I'll be able to lie down, put my feet up, just try and relieve some of the pressure from my back. But thankfully, after the second trimester, I didn't have much of any back pain, which I was surprised about, because I thought the bigger the belly, the more, pressure there would be on my lower back. And this would keep going up until the baby came, which wasn't actually the case. The other thing that I would say is, I did mention that I was going to work, and first trimester, obviously no one can really see the belly, it's really tiny. But as you move into the second trimester and the third trimester, your belly starts to really pop out, and it becomes a bit more of, less of a food baby and more of, okay, no, this person is really, really pregnant. And the trains here do have priority sitting. So if I am pregnant, I could go up and request a seat and be like, oh, excuse me, can I please, use a seat? But what I would want to say is, no one actually offered. So I felt, I might have just been paranoid or whatever, but I felt every time when I got into the train, and people could really see that I was pregnant and I'm wearing like a figure hugging dress, and there's no mistaking that, okay, this is a pregnancy belly. I feel like the people on the priority seats would kind of look away, in my opinion, guiltily, and not try to, offer up any seats or anything of the sort. So I'd be able to be on the train standing for a good maybe even 30 minutes. But I will say that I was offered seats, and the most surprising thing is, every time I was offered a seat, it was by a lady, for starters, and secondly, it was by an older lady. So never anyone who's like around my age or younger. They were all 50 plus, all with white hair, and all seen many years on the face of the earth, which would make me feel really bad, because priority seats are for pregnant people, disabled people, the older people, and the fact that they would be willing to give up their seat for me, I mean, come on, they don't make them like that anymore. But in those cases, I'd always be like, it's okay, I can stand, no issues, please stay sitting, and it's fine, don't get up for me. It's not that I had an issue with standing, it's that people didn't actually offer. I don't know if it makes sense, but I'm like, oh, is this where society is at the moment? But I won't lie, I think the whole time when I was using public transport, I think I had one older gentleman, again, offer me his seat. But honestly, my train ride at the time was about 3 minutes, because I was going to, connect with another train. But honestly, that was about it. The other thing that they don't really tell you about is the hormones. And I don't know if you notice that your hormones are playing havoc on you up until a much later stage in the pregnancy. So I'd find myself crying literally over nothing, and I just burst into tears, and I'll just have like a really good cry, and I wouldn't even know why I'm crying. Nash would be asking me, oh, what's wrong? Why are you crying? What can I do? And I'm like, no, I don't know, I'm just crying. And at the end of the cry, I definitely feel so much better, but not that it was from anything in particular, like, oh, this triggered the crying, so this is why I'm crying, so this is, how we can stop it next time. And it would just happen like at super random times. I would be able to like leave the office and actually go into the toilet and start crying, not because work is hard, not because of anything, but because my hormones are just like, you know what, now's a really good time for us to release the waterworks and for you to have a bit of a meltdown about nothing. And it was really interesting trying to manage and cope with everything. The hormones also affected what I like to watch on telly. I know this sounds really ridiculous, but I couldn't watch anything which was super heavy, super emotional. And I would say for the duration of the pregnancy, I was watching a lot of comedy, because if I watched anything which had a drop of emotion, which isn't a hilarious type of emotion, I would lose it. And, it's not nice to subject yourself to some of these things. The other thing that hormones do is it can also either increase your sex drive or reduce your sex drive, which is something that a lot of people don't actually talk about, but it is something which I think a lot of women would appreciate to know and to understand, and to understand how better to cope with the situation. You might not understand what's happening and what's going on, but some of these things, if people were at least to speak to you and let you know that it's actually normal for things to happen this way or for things to happen this other way, and you'd be able to manage, what's happening and see what's happening, not just be shocked and be like, what's going on? I don't know what to do. So that was one of the things I will say. And this is one thing that Nash always said. He said I looked beautiful, more than he's ever seen me look in the duration of us dating, of us getting married and anything. Like, he was like, you're just looking super amazing all throughout the pregnancy. So my skin was glowing, my hair was lush, my edges came back stronger than ever. It was really, it's the plus side of being pregnant. I never had a single pimple. Pimple what? Pimple for who? Who knows what a pimple is? And it was really crazy. I could literally do anything, eat anything. I swear, even if I was swimming in oil, I wouldn't get a pimple. And my skin was really that good. It was literally glowing. And that's one of the things that I'm definitely going to miss, because I do get hormonal acne occasionally. And it's definitely not something that I'm looking forward to. I'm definitely going to miss my thicker, more lush hair. I mean, it was crazy. It was ridiculous, but I absolutely loved it. So for me, I think those are some of the things that I didn't really know about getting into the pregnancy, and I did encounter as I was going along the journey. There's a lot of other things that you don't know. I mean, from the time you get pregnant, it's all about researching. It's all about trying to figure out what's happening, why this would happen, and it can get a bit overwhelming, but I hope that this video will help you guys with a bit of the expectations of what's to come when you do get pregnant and what you can expect. But what I will say is it differs from person to person. So I might have had no cravings and the next person would have had really strong cravings. And there's nothing wrong with that. Every pregnancy is different. My next pregnancy, who knows? It could be the total opposite of what I experienced with this one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.